This is Ty Anderson with OfficeDeveloper.net. In today's video, I'm going to show you how to take advantage of the new managed metadata services inside of SharePoint 2010. Now, managed metadata services is new to SharePoint 2010, and what it does is really extends the metadata model that was available inside of SharePoint 2007. With 2007, if you had a set of metadata or content types that you wanted to reuse inside of different site collections, you would essentially have to either export them manually and then import them into the other site collection that you wish to utilize the content types or metadata inside of, or you could do it also through code. But the point being, there wasn't a way to handle this automatically where you could have, say, a provider of metadata or content types that would essentially push out content types to different subscribing sites and site collections and have this happen automatically via timer jobs. And that's exactly what is available now inside of SharePoint 2010. Inside of SharePoint 2010, we can essentially create a site collection and have it act as the source, or in SharePoint 2010 language, the hub, that you create your enterprise content types and metadata, and then have subscribing site collections that receive updates that allow you then to organize your metadata and ensure, say, consistency across all your site collections and however you might do your SharePoint installation. In the rest of this video, I'm going to show you how to set up a managed metadata service and then utilize that across a couple of site collections that I've already created. To get started, we'll go to Central Administration inside of SharePoint 2010. I actually have, that's in my first tab here, and then I have a couple other sites, just the default site collection and another site collection that I have that's running on port 1234. But inside of Central Admin, where we want to go is to the Application Management section, and under Service Applications we want Managed Service Applications. And inside of here, I don't have currently a managed metadata service. I deleted it so I can demo it. What we'll do is create a new one from the new tab or new button inside of the ribbon, and we'll say Managed Metadata Service. I will give this service name just Global Managed Metadata. And as for the database name, I'm going to use the same thing. So I'll just cut and paste this. The server name is the current server that I'm running on. I'm going to use Windows Authentication. And I could specify a failover database server, but I'm not going to do that here, but it is an option. And as far as the application pool, I want to use the existing SharePoint Web Services default. I find that that's a convenient and also best practice for if I'm using stuff across different sites to have them all use the same application pool. Now, here's the key setting that's really going to help us out here. It's to enter the URL of the site collection, also known as the content type hub, from which the service application will consume content types. And what I'm going to do is use this site. I'll just go back to the home page of that site, but it's really this Tyrant 5 website. I'll specify that URL, and I'm going to go ahead and take the defaults for report syndication import errors and add this service application to the farms default list. And I'll say OK. By hitting OK, SharePoint will create a new database that will create, or that will store all the metadata for this managed metadata service. And also, too, it will specify Tyrant 5 as the place where all the content types, that's the source site. So the content types that I'll create and the metadata that I'll create inside of the Tyrant 5 site, that will then be pushed out to any other sites that might subscribe to this SharePoint Global Managed Metadata service that I just created. And now that we have this service, we'll see we have two items listed inside of the service applications section. One is the global managed metadata service itself, and then two, SharePoint went ahead and already created what's called a connection, or a managed metadata service connection. And it's this connection that will be utilized by different site collections to subscribe to the managed metadata service. Let's go ahead and take a look at these. When selecting objects inside or items inside of the service applications listing, we don't want to click on the type or the actual name. It will take us to the taxonomy service. We just want to click in another field and we can look at the properties. We can see everything that we just configured here. It's the same. And then we do the same thing for our connection. And inside of the connection, the main thing we want to look for and ensure is happening is to say, have the checkbox consumes content types from the content type gallery at Tyrant 5. We want that checkbox checked. I'm going to go ahead and specify this service application's default storage location for column-specific term sets as well. Now let's go ahead and click on the name of the global managed metadata, and we'll be taken to what's called the term store management tool. And this term store management tool allows us to create a set of terms that can be utilized across any site that's subscribing to this managed metadata service. I will create a new group and we'll call it company terms. And inside of this group we can create what's called term sets. We can also import term sets, which is you just in essence go find a CSV file that you've created that conforms to the template, which you can find information on that inside of MSDN. But for this demo we'll just do everything manually. So I'll create a new term set. I'll call it regions and I'll create new terms. I'm going to get fancy here. North, south, east, and west. And we'll create just another term set here. Call it products. And let's call this doohickeys, thingamabobs, and widgets. Okay. So now these, I can create site columns inside of my metadata and then reuse those site columns and attach them or associate them with these terms. It's great for standardizing a language or say a taxonomy inside of SharePoint. Okay, so what I want to do now is go back to Central Admin and we'll go back to Application Management, back to Manage. Actually, I don't want to manage the service applications. What I actually want to do now is configure service application associations. So I'll click, and on configure service application associations we have both of the site collections that I've already set up inside of my SharePoint farm here. And you notice the names, you see the URLs, you also see their port numbers. And what I have, this first one set up to use the default application proxy group, and it already is configured to use global managed metadata. So that's fine, that's great, there's really nothing else to do. It's going to be utilizing it. And the reason mainly is because we've configured this as our content hub. So next, the SharePoint 1234 site is using a custom configuration, and you'll notice that global managed metadata isn't anywhere to be found. So we need to set it up to utilize this metadata service. We'll do so by clicking custom, and we'll see a list of all the different application associations. And in this case, I just need to click global managed metadata and hit the OK button. And once done, then the SharePoint 1234 site is set up to be now a subscriber to the content types and metadata available inside of the Tyrant 5 or the default SharePoint application. So now what we need to do is head over to the Tyrant 5 site collection, which is the one that's been specified to be the content hub, and we're going to create some content, or at least one content type that will use this metadata service, use the taxonomy, the keywords that we created, and will be the source for the other site collection that will subscribe to this site. So we'll head to the Site Actions menu, which is in the top left-hand corner. It's been moved from the top right-hand corner, and we'll do Site Settings. And inside of the Gallery section, I'll click Site Content Types. And what we want to do is create a new one. And I'll just say, we'll call this legal docs. And as far as the parent type, I'm just going to say it's a document. And yeah, document. Great. I'll put it inside of the custom content types and say OK. And now I'm able to, it has base ones, title, manage keywords, which is also coming from managed metadata. But what I want to do is add from new site column, which will allow me to create a new site column as well as add it to this site content type, all in one step. So the first one I'll say is the region. Scroll down a bit, and what I have here is the type of managed metadata. That's the type I want to select. I'll skip on down because where I want to get to now is this section here of the managed metadata tree that's available from the global managed metadata service. And inside of here I can click on company terms, which is available to me, and I want to select regions. And this, by selecting this, the values that are underneath regions becomes available to this site column. And if I skip down a bit further, I can specify a default value, which this also helps me test and know that it actually works, that the region selection will work and be just fine. And I'm going to select North. I'll hit the select button and the OK button, and that specifies North as my default value. And update all content types inheriting from this type, yes. And we'll say OK. Is it now? We'll do company region. Say OK. Now I'll add another one for the product. And I'll say affected product. So we'll pretend this is some sort of legal document library that the content type will be associated with, and it's involving company products, to which I'll just come back down to company terms and say products. I will not specify default value this time and leave everything else the same and say OK. So now what I have is basically a legal docs content type that's based off of a normal document content type, to which I've added company region and affected product that are really tied back to the taxonomy term sets that I created inside of the managed metadata service. But this isn't enough to force any subscribing site to see this new content type. I actually need to publish it. And fortunately, inside of the settings section here, we have something or an option for manage publishing for this content type. So I will click this option. And content type publishing, I really only have one option here. I can choose to publish it or I can cancel out. So I want to make this content type available for download for all web applications and site collections consuming content types from this location. So I will say OK. And clicking OK publishes it. And we'll just click back real quick to see that the last successful publish date was just now at 5:15 p.m. So I will click cancel. I don't want to republish it. And now I'm going to go back to team site 1234, and we'll take a look at it and go to site settings, and I'll look at site content types. And right now we do not see inside of, or really anywhere, the legal docs content type, and it's because SharePoint has a scheduling system, a timing system, and the service has not yet updated it. So what we need to do is head back over to the SharePoint Central Administration and click the Monitoring option. And we'll review the job definitions inside the Timer Jobs section. And there's 3 of them here related to our content types. So the Content Type Hub, it's updating. I have it set to update every 1 minute, so it's probably already run, but I'm going to go ahead and click Run Now. And this throws out anything that's been published, anything that's been changed. It's now thrown it out for the subscribers to know about. And both of those services for each of the 2 different sites is set to run hourly. And what I want to do is go ahead and run it now so that it will pick up any changes that have been made to the content types that it's subscribing to. So we'll click Run Now. And now we should be able to go over to the site content, or to the other site, and see it. So let's do that now. Head back over to the Tyrant 51234 site, and I'll hit refresh since I'm already looking at the content types. And now we have a new section called Custom Content Types with Legal Docs, and I'll click it just to make sure, and there you have it. Everything is there as we would expect. So as you've seen, the new Managed Metadata Services allows you to create a set of metadata and then use it, standardize it across all your different sites inside of your enterprise without having to go through manual steps or writing code to import it or export it and import it. You now have this service that handles it for you. And if you're familiar, say, with SQL Server and a replication model there, where you have a data source that then pushes out updates via replication. This is essentially the same kind of idea. It's very useful, and I think once you get your handle on, or get your mind wrapped around it and how to use it, it's a simple tool to use and will be very powerful in how you administer your SharePoint installations. That's it for this video, and I'll see you next time.